okay, I know how this looks. Looks like I haven't done anything. And you're right. I've been playing other games. I got back into New Gundam Breaker. I've been playing that a lot. Who knows? You may see that on the channel. I don't like it. Check some stuff real quick. Real quick, gotta check stuff. Gotta check my stuff. I do not believe I have a thumbnail for that yet, so I'd have to make that. Not that it's all that hard. It's just have to. Actually, it's really not that hard when you connect a Switch controller that has the. Well, any Switch controller that has the capture button. New Gundam Breaker, NGB, not gonna break. No goobers. Bear. I don't know. I guess I don't have a thumbnail for that. I'll have to make it. Anyway, I decided we're going to do filler episode. No, I'm going to show you all the process by which I remake everyone. So, honestly, it hurts to say this, I'm going to go through every floor and respec everyone. This may be changing outfits for some. This may be changing entire builds around. So, if anyone was ever curious how I did this, the first thing I do is this. Equip pages. Empty bookshelf, revert attribution, unequip. And I do this for everyone. It's a little annoying to do it for characters who are ranged because they have to unequip their look as well sometimes. I'm also going to maybe try a little bit better. I also might not. Again, I'm just showing you all the whole process. So just to kind of give you an idea of how much work I do put into this. Even when I take breaks off the game, I do want to come back a little bit more fresh than normal. Sometimes to do this, I feel like, you know, I can get a burst of inspiration, figure out how things are done. No, I left the thing unattributed. But yeah, it's just a lot of clicking. Now, I may go to the comment Flygon left with us and double check some stuff there. I may also see what I may also just throw my ideas out there so, you know, I can remember them easier. But if we look at everything, right, we can see, you know, who's strong against what and doing what with what. And unequip that. Enhanced pages, there's okay, so now everyone's unequipped. I think I was the librarian that was, yeah, I had the unskilled amateur, which was health but less stagger resist and taking hits with Finn's page equipped. Okay. Again, once you know how to get these battle accessories, they're probably much easier to get. Except for maybe imperfect ego, because you have to survive through the wedge one, which can be a little bit hard. I know a lot of my characters have it, because, you know, Rowan looks nice with glasses. He looks a little bit too nerdy for my takes. Okay, so I think the most important thing, and this is just my opinion, the most important thing you want to do is figure out what your librarian. That was my phone for once. Get a notification. I'm so pleased. Webtoons, read stuff. Anyway, I often look at my librarian and kind of figure out how I want to build kind of around them. I know I should more be looking at the library itself. So again, if we're looking at the floor of General Works, we have Bloodbath, Heart of Aspiration, and Pinocchio. So Bloodbath, it tells me I can have someone who's defensive, who's tanky on this. It also tells me that I can protect my units more against slash-heavy enemies who maybe, you know, they are not. And also, it does extra stagger damage when you're dealing 3 hits. So the Bloodbath kind of tells me I want either a multi-hitter or I want a defensive unit, right? But it also is telling me, based off the red emotion card, that I should be that I should be very careful, because that unit will take extra stagger damage, which means if I don't get the perfect blocks, it's bad for them. But that's only whenever one of my librarians reaches max emotion, and then they get to it. Heart of Aspiration. Heart of Aspiration is very scary. To me, at least, right? Because I tend to have some pretty abysmal luck. You can counteract the negatives of it by having recovery, obviously, at least for the pulsation page, where all allies gain 1 to 2 strength at the end of each scene. And if they don't deal any offensive damage with if they don't deal any damage with offensive die, they lose 25% of their max HP, which can go up to as high as 30. Right? That's honestly terrifying. Because think about it, you think you have, you know, this combat figured out, you slap that on, because the moment you slap it on, you have to deal damage, otherwise they take damage, which is very frightening, because if you don't pause for a moment and really consider things, this could actually put your characters in a worse position. And again, if you're doing a multi-floor battle, like continuous battles, this may put all your librarians in danger. Now they'll start off the first scene with it active without the strength. So if you were counting on the strength to do that, don't. You want to use your biggest damage dealers the moment you activate it, and then save the lower hitting ones for later. And then, of course, hopefully you snowball with that. But you also got to be careful about spreading out the damage evenly. It would be really bad if you had 2 or even 3 of your librarians getting smacked by this page, because one did the job. So, might be good for a very specific build. I have ideas, of course, but then there's Urging. Urging is just a straight up benefit. It gives you extra HP, good for, again, giving your character, any character that has recovery pages, and of course any character that uses speed on their pages as well. Cards, pages, same thing. Fervent Beats. This is the comeback mechanic with a deadly cost. Oh, I actually didn't read that last bit. All stagger damage resistance is changed to ineffective. So it basically ensures that unless your character's getting mollywopped and beaten down hard, they're taking people out. And you have 3 scenes. 3 scenes to go and clean up. You know. And there's no way to save them. At least I don't believe there are any resurrection pages or stuff like that. But it is just good to take out someone. Just take out the big threat, massacre the small grunts or whatever, you know. And then we go to Pinocchio. And Pinocchio's kind of strange with this type of loadout. You see this stuff and you're like, oh, okay, we're going for a recovery defensive type thing with maybe some offense mixed in. But then Pinocchio's like, hey, add learn. And if someone is like doing some big damage on you, you can take that page and use it as your own. Now that might be helpful if you're low on combat pages, or again if you're a range character who's mostly range based, because this gives you something else to do. I've never actually had a moment where I've lost all my range cards, because that terrifies me, honestly. And there's Lies. Lies is okay. It really is, again, another one of those frightening ones where it randomizes all your page costs. It's really a gamble. It's an honest to God gamble. You're either gonna get amazing luck and you get like 0 cost, 1 cost, 2 cost, and you can play them like bop, 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 bop. Or they can all be 3 costs and you could be sitting there doing nothing for a turn, which when paired with Pulsation is bad. And there's just Curiosity. At the start of a scene, shuffle all pages into the draw pile and draw 4 pages. This is good for characters who run through pages like it's good for characters who run through pages like dogs run through the snow when they're excited. You know, it is bound to be useful for any of those characters who have multiple pages they can use per turn and can use them. It pairs nicely with lies because, you know, you're giving them more pages to shuffle through and try to get a better draw out. But it is very situational. Looking at our social sciences floor, we have Torn Off Wisdom, Gleaning, and Rake. So for the top page, obviously, discard a page, regain life. Right? Good for discard meta, but it's not something I personally enjoy. I'm still myself trying to figure out like what would be the best for that. I don't visit the Reddit or stuff. I don't look at too many things. I'm very much, I guess you would call it a casual player of library. Gleaning. After attacking an enemy with a higher amount of stagger, you deal 2 to 4 and recover 2 to 5. So this is good to keep your, like, this is good for kind of, I think, any cards that have a risk tied to them where, you know, you might be losing more stagger resist than normal. I don't think there are cards like that, though. I might be wrong. But it's also just good to regain some of that stagger that you've been missing, or good for characters who have, like, bad resistances to it. As for Rake, yeah, so this is just good, period, because if you're fighting a strong enemy and the person who has Rake staggers them, you get 2 of their pages. Oh, you get 2 of their pages and they cost 2 less, which means I think, for example, Brawl, right? That goes down to 1 cost, and you can use it basically on the very next turn to beat them down. Super good, super aggressive, serves an aggressive playstyle. I'd argue that all of these serve a really good aggressive playstyle, and the light thing plays really nicely with how kind of high cost some of the better discard cards are, right? We don't have Gebra's thing yet, because I suck. The floor of natural sciences. We have Queen of Hatred and Knight of Despair. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna get the last one next. I can't wait for that other hour-long nonsense. Queen of Hatred, after winning a clash with using an offensive die, random ally gains 3 to 5 HP. After winning a clash using a defensive die, random ally gains stagger resist. Really good for you being the kind of cleric tank. If you're the one who's going into combat constantly, then slapping love on you just kind of helps the whole party. Really good for a mixed unit, maybe one who's not just... I'm not talking about mixed like, oh, they have, like... I'm talking about if someone had purely offensive and defensive all at once, rather than having pages that have both on them, like I kind of like to use. The enemy who dealt the most damage to allies in the previous scene is marked as the villain. This is good for a very aggressive build, because the moment you put that on someone, they instantly become your hero. And you want your hero to go and destroy. So it may be best to pair love and justice together. Hate. After losing a clash, take 2 to 4 stagger damage and gain 1 strength in the next scene up to 2. After losing 3 clashes, reduce the cost of the most expensive page in hand by 1 once per scene. So it's kind of a tilt thing. Like if you're just constantly getting smacked down hard, or the enemies just scale too much for you, you can go with hate. You can go with hate, and it may turn the tide of battle. If you're using a lot of heavy costing cards, though, I don't know. I mean, I like doing that because I'm goofy and very, very mad. But now moving on to the Knight. So if the character took damage from attacks in the previous scene, change his character's resistances to that type that dealt the most damage to them to endured for the scene. And this is separate for physical and stagger. So this is good in case one buddy's getting targeted down and they're really just like struggling. Maybe they don't have endured on there, but they have like normal, but they're still getting smacked a lot. It's a good comeback. Again, a nice comeback situational thing. Despair. Whenever an ally dies, all other allies gain 3 strength, 1 to 3 strength and haste, and all enemies are inflicted with fragile 2. Now, because I think it's only once, this is not the one you want to pick. You also don't want your allies dying, period. But if they're gonna die and you get this, you might as well try for a next heavy turn. So if they do die, you gain a lot, and you can easily turn the tide. Blades wetted by teardrops. On successful pierce attack, if the next die rolled max value, deal bonus damage equal to 10% of the target's max HP, maximum 12, excludes mass attack. This is good for a hefty chunk and for if you roll high, right? But this is also only serves for piercing units. So in my case here, going over very quickly, I'd have this be a mixed squad to better play around with all their abnormalities. I'd have this be a bit more of maybe a discard team, possibly even one discarder, one tank, one pseudo buffer, one pseudo support. Don't know about them yet. For these guys, I definitely have a piercing unit, like one unit who's dedicated to doing piercing damage and piercing attacks, just so I have the best chance for blades wetted by teardrops to come into play. But again, this is my personal POV there. And then, of course, the floor of art. Arguably my favorite floor simply because of Child of the Galaxy. Now, this one actually very much focuses on staggering and healing. It's very much kind of, in my personal opinion, the tank floor. The floor of, like, beefcakes, right? Because you got Echoes, which straight up just deals damage and recovers stagger damage, right? So you're gaining and they're losing. And you sometimes I've actually used this to, straight up stun someone. And that's the whole point of it. You straight up just stun. We have Tentacles, which again, another pierce attack emotion page, but it basically reduces the maximum stagger resistance of a target. It could easily, like, help you target down that one jerk who's been doing a lot of damage, and especially if they have stagger piercing as their weaker thing for stagger, forget about it. Incomprehensible, a 2 emotion one. On a one-sided attack, inflict 1 feeble and disarm on the next scene and a 50% chance. The likelihood increases by 10 for each successful attack, 3 times per engagement, excludes mass attack. It's basically I'm gonna bully you, so let's make the bullying worse. Now, Child of the Galaxy, I've used this numerous times throughout me playing, both off-screen and I'm pretty sure on-screen too, because I like the floor of art, mostly for my boy Net over here. And River. River holds a special place in my heart. But the single ally, basically every time they draw, they get a pebble status on a page. Excluding on play pages, apparently. They recover HP, or they lose HP. They recover HP if they use the pebble page, but if they don't, they lose it. Not the worst, because even if you spend a turn not using a pebble page, you can gain it back with possibly more for using one the next turn, and you can stack up on more pebble pages that way. I mostly use it as a things are getting rough thing, well, mechanic of sorts, but that's me. Teardrop. Dice power +1. On death, all characters take 50% of this character's max HP as damage, maximum 60. This could wipe you out if put on the wrong person, but I actually like pairing Teardrop and Pebble together. And I actually rarely get the chance to use Teardrop because mostly we're ending it before it takes place or before it has to take place. Then there's Token of Friendship. Child of the Galaxy basically gives you, for 3 scenes, all allies recover max HP of 12. 10%, the maximum 12 at the start of each scene. Really good for characters who have a lot of hurt yourself pages, or hurt yourself gain a benefit pages, because then it's just like instant comeback. And then we have the Porcubus, who was an interesting creature for me. So another piercing attack. This floor actually should have more piercers than normal. I think I tried to do that using Bella. Bella was like our pierce unit. While River and Net were the bleeders and Dia was the support. But you inflict 1 thrill to the target. Targets with 3+ thrill deal 2 to 7 bonus damage of staggering, and then remove all stacks of thrill. So it encourages you to play pierce cards that have multiple hits on them, right? And I encourage you to be a very strong piercing unit. Again, I would almost argue that this floor kind of needs a piercing unit harder than the previous. But again, the previous also can just make use of someone who plays piercing cards as well, like just normally. Elation, dice power +1, but reduce max stagger resist by 50%. I think for the extra die power, it's just worth it. That's a +1. That can turn 9 to 17 into 10 to 18, which can really make a difference. And you can easily, fix that by using laughing powder. But again, just my own personal idea of something. This floor really would benefit from having, well, the loadout that I had before, but I might try to change it up. The floor of literature. Shy Look, today's Shy Look, Red Shoes, and Spiderbud. Fun fact, today's Shy Look was one of my favorites in Lobotomy Corporation because it was always easy to get best results. I hated Red Shoes because, and I actually never got Spiderbud. I wish he would have been my bud though. Look of the day. Single ally, librarian face constantly shifts. So this is good if you can time it right. Now, what they don't tell you is that you want anger to get the +2, and in case you want to save that unit for last for whatever reason, or you misclick, you get the -2 for the happy face. But let's say that the die was you deal more damage to yourself based off the size power, you maybe want to go for that. This is good for, again, risky plays, but only if you're good at timing things, and you're paying close attention. Social distancing. Funny. Single ally, block dice gain 1 to 2 power, and deal 2 to 7 stagger damage on a deflect. So this really encourages you to have deflecting cards. And this also really encourages whoever's using it, possibly the tank of the team, to kind of be ready to take the hits for people. Because the better they are taking hits, the better they are dealing out stagger damage, and the better they are at protecting their friends. Shyness. I've actually never gotten to use this one. When using a page, all block dice on that page gain power equals to the number of defensive dice on said page. Easy +3 if you have a multi-block one, or easy +2 in case you have most of the ones that I tend to play with. Which is really useful, again, for the tank. Shy Look today really seems to be the tank abnormality page. Abnormality book, I guess you could call it. It encourages you to be very, very planned and thought out. Now, Red Shoes is basically the opposite. At the start of each scene, well, it kind of helps with the tanking thing, because it, makes targets prioritize you and deal extra damage, but you gain 1 to 2 power in clashes against allured enemies. So if the tank has this and this, it's pretty much guaranteed that they can block you pretty hard, especially if you have social distancing on them as well. Although it is very risky to have all those pages stacked on one person. Ignore what I often do to Netzach. Obsession. All characters apply twice as many stacks of bleed. Good if you have hefty bleed, bad if they also have bleed. Do not use against people who bleed, otherwise you will bleed. Blood. Axe. Single ally, slash dice gain 1 to 3 power. Take 2 to 5 stagger damage when a slash attack does not connect. Thankfully, mass attacks don't, get included here, so you can kind of cheat around the negative here, but you do really want to use this on someone who's your slash bleed guy, especially if you hook the 2 of these up. It's really nice. And I was super pleased that they gave me a full green pages afterwards, because I know the red just gives you a benefit with a negative attached to it to kind of, warn you against letting it get that bad. But Cocoon. Single ally. On hit, if die rolled maximum value, inflict 1 to 2 paralysis, bind, and fragile next scene. Basically encouraging you to play dice that have very minimum chance of you getting stupid high or stupid low, and kind of really encourages you to play specifically anyone that has a maximum value only, but not the best hit. And I like that, because especially if you use it on someone who's been stunned. Ooh, that's a kiss. Meal. On hit against staggered, and hey, exactly what I'm talking about. Staggered enemies is what you want to be using Spiderbud on. On hit against a staggered enemy, all allies recover 2 to 4 HP. It excludes mass attack. I don't know if that's each hit. It might be, in which case this is really good for, again. Actually, this might need to be my tanky floor. I'm looking at it now, and I keep making Yasad's floor the tank one, but maybe this one should be the tank one. Maybe I should swap out characters. I gotta keep Starsky with the mustache, man. Alertness. Enemy lose 1 power in clashes against a select librarian. Upon winning a clash, inflict 1 bind and 1 fragile next scene at 50% chance. Again, really good for the tank. Really good for the blocky characters. So if I were to change up all the floors starting with this one, I definitely put 2 tanks, 2 DPS, if we're using MMO terms. Alright, getting on to Yasad's floor, the one of technical sciences. We have a lot of science floors. We have Forsaken Murderer, All-Around Helper, and Singing Machine. The Forsaken Murderer has the metallic ringing. Upon successful blunt attack, inflict 1 bind and paralysis, excludes mass attack. Chained Wrath, single ally, blunt dice gain 1 to 3 power. Speed is fixed at 1. You will be smacked down hard if you are targeted with, and you have this page equipped. There's no way to fix it, I think, except by using haste cards. And even then, you will always be rolling low. You want to actually try to stop your enemies from having higher speed than you, and hope the speed tie. But again, you can easily fix this by having your tank of the team, or your support going and, you know. Sorry about that. Anyway, you can have people fix the speed problem, but, still a problem. Violent. Lower the minimum value of all die by 1, and raise the maximum by 3. Horrible if you're going for anything like the page where it deals 45 plus damage if you score the maximum. But man, would it feel good if you kept getting the max, if you just kept getting lucky, you know? Probably heard it that time. It's my bad. Very active night. All-Around Helper. I actually like this guy, mostly because of his design. I thought it was a Reddit monster when I first had it in Lobotomy Corp, and I started off with it somehow. Single Librarian. If they have maximum light at the start of a scene, gain haste and deal more damage for attacks with attacks for that scene. I think Recharge keeps active. I don't know, it doesn't say like one use. So this would be really good for anyone who has a lot of light gain back abilities. Kind of again, a decent maybe support unit who's focusing on keeping their light up. You know, the good stuff. We have Repetitive Pattern Recognition. After every 3 clash wins, restore 1 light and gain 1 to 2 haste. Really good when paired with this because you can kind of... I don't think you can offset Chained Wrath, but you can definitely have people around you offset Chained Wrath. Clean. Offensive dice gain power against enemies with slower speed. Should never be put on anyone unless they have one of these, or unless, again, they're very fast. Now this Singing Machine. All characters deal 4 to 8 extra damage with attacks this reception. Oh my god, this reception? They also suffer 4 to 8 staggered damage when taking a hit. But whenever an ally defeats an enemy, they gain 15 HP and stagger resist? I might have been playing this floor all wrong. Oh my goodness. Rhythm. Single ally for the duration of the battle. Gain 1 rhythm at the start of each scene. Whenever the character with rhythm makes a successful attack, a random character gains 1 rhythm at 25% chance the next scene. Rhythm gives you strength, and you take additional stagger damage from hits, but only lasts a scene. Musical Addiction. Offensive dice gain 1 to 3 power. Defensive dice roll 1. You want to put this on your attacker, and only your attacker. And finally, we have the Floor of History. with Malkuth, Scorched Girl, Happy Teddy Bear, and the Ferry Festival. Gotta love the fairies. Scorched Girl. When hit, inflict 1 to 3 burn on the attacker, gain a buff at 40% chance next scene. Offensive dice inflict 1 burn on hit. I really feel like I've been playing this all wrong, looking at all this stuff now. Footfalls. Librarians. When Librarian's HP is at 25% or lower, deal 30% damage of the target's max HP as damage and inflict 1 to 3 burn upon approaching them. Then die. This is literally a I have no other option Android 16 ability. I've actually used this to success though. Single ally. The first 2 combat pages the librarian uses after the abnormality page is selected gain matchlight status. Excludes on-play pages. Whenever the librarian uses a page with matchlight, gain 1 ember. Pages with matchlight become stronger based on the amount of ember you have. However, they have a 25% chance to damage the user if ember is at 4 or higher. So, this is again, a very heavy, risky gamble. You can do this, and with recovery pages, forget about it. Easy clap. But you could heavy suffer from it too, especially if you're in a pinch. I can see this being very useful on a burn page, or again, the recover pages that I've been getting more of. You know, it may even be good for lower damage pages because the matchlight could possibly give you that extra oomph you need. Happy Teddy Bear, nostalgic embrace of the old days. Upon winning a clash, deal bonus dagger damage equal to the dice value at 20% chance. Clashing against the same target multiple times will increase the likelihood. Effectively, you're gonna break this person. Just keep hugging them. Just keep hugging them. Happy memories. The combat page with the highest cost in hand is chosen. Using pages with the same name will decrease the cost of every copy of that page the character currently owns by 1. Chances are, if you're running a very offensive-based build with 4 copies of maybe a 4-cost with 3 copies of a 4-cost page, this will help you out when it comes to playing it, because you can easily drop that cost down to 0. And once it's at 0, it's just easy money. But again, it takes a lot of setup, so I can understand why many people might not go for Happy Memories over something like Ashes, Matchlight, or even Nostalgic Embrace. Maybe the fairies will prove us different, but let's look at Display of Affection. All dice gain 1 to 2 power in a clash. All dice lose 1 to 2 power in a one-sided attack. Can't have affection only going one way, gotta constantly be engaging with the enemy. Good again for the quote-unquote tank that I keep saying, because they want to be constantly smacking you and constantly getting into clashes to keep up their light. Moving on to the Ferry Festival. For 3 scenes, recover 15% of max HP. Max you can recover is 18. At the end of the scene, Librarian is hit 3 times with this active, lose 25% HP, and lose this effect. You have to pretty much guarantee that you're not getting targeted down, and have your allies protect you, especially if you don't want to lose the benefit of this. But then again, you only have to avoid being hit for 3 scenes and you gain the max benefit, which could be a possibility of 18 multiplied by 3. 8 times 3 is 24. So 54, I believe is no, 64, I believe. Oh Lord, I'm gonna be made fun of. Is it 60? Might be 50. I'm tired, leave me alone. But losing that possible 30 could hurt badly, so you definitely want to have someone who's good at dodging. Gluttony. When attacking a target who has already took damage in the same scene, deal 1 to 3 extra damage and recover 2 to 5 HP on hit. Very good for a beatdown strategy. I actually probably should have used these guys to take on the sweepers, but live and learn. Hang on the edge of tomorrow. Predation. Single ally. All allies except the select librarian lose 10 HP. But that librarian recovers as much HP from others lost from this effect and gains 3 strength and 3 haste this scene. Very good if everyone's looking healthy except for this character, and they're your damage dealer. But it is risky, because you never know when that 10 HP could spell the difference between we survive this and we don't. So looking through all that, you can kind of gather, like, maybe some ideas that might be flowing through my head now. Something I like to do whenever I, you know, start up this game again after a while. But this was basically the information episode. We're going to be probably customizing everyone in the next one. So until then, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, you know what to do. Much appreciate you if you do. And to the next video, why don't you do like that Tabor does the like button, and I'll see you next time. Laters.